Yeah, before you guys go walking off, I have to tell you, I was at Mile High Church, and they claim to have the most dangerous church rock band in the country, and I said, "Huh! You don't know the most dangerous rock and roll church band in the country. It's here, right here." They don't have anything we don't have. I'm telling you, except a bigger sanctuary and more parking. They do have more parking, which is, that's our prayer, right? More parking. So today we are celebrating Earth Day, and we are wrapping up our April series on kinship with all life. And so I want to ask you today to consider that kinship in a new and deeper way. It is axiomatic among mystics of every spiritual tradition that we are far more than kin to the other beings on our planet. We are one with everything that exists. There isn't a mystical experience that doesn't come, the mystic comes back to report a revelation that all creatures are connected to all other creatures, and that we're connected, because we're one of them, to everything that exists. We're not kin even, we're not cousins, we're like identical twins, still in the womb of life, the womb of creation, dependent upon life, all life, to keep us healthy. And all life depends on us to keep it healthy. So I treat that as a fundamental idea of spiritual life, since it seems to come through what every mystic has ever said. It's not just me sitting on my meditation cushion. It's not just me praying for my happiness and well-being. It's not just me living my life. It is life living through me and everything around me. It's all part of this one life we call God. And that may sound like a really simple idea, but here's where it gets difficult. How does it show up in our living? How does this oneness show up in our living, in the decisions we make, and the choices we make? How does it transform us? How does it contribute to making us the people we came here to be? Like everything else, that answer depends on the decisions we make, right? The choices we make, the ways we choose to interact with the rest of life. I ran across something yesterday that I really loved. It's by Ian Thomas, and he wrote, "And every day the world will drag you by the hand, yelling, 'This is important, and this is important, and this is important, and you need to worry about this, and this, and this.' And each day it's up to us to yank our hand back, place it on our heart, and say, 'No, this is what's important.' The heart. The life of the heart is what's important. And so it's also important to ask, how do I live in integrity with my heart? How do I live in integrity with the connection and the knowledge that I'm interwoven with all the rest of life? How do I let that inform who I am and what I do? This is the difficult question. The easy question, it's sort of like any other spiritual truth. Sounds simple, really tough to live, right? It's a basic truth, and part of the difficulty is because life is always grabbing our hand and yelling, "This is important, worry about this." How can we be intentional about living this fundamental truth? How can we be intentional in recognizing that there's only one life here? There's only one life, and it encompasses everything. Humans and insects and microbes and even mosquitoes and trees and flowers and cats and dogs and everything. There's only one life, and we're participating in it. How do we live intentionally? And that's where we begin, right? Because any transformation begins with an intention to be transformed. Any spiritual change begins with an acknowledgement that it is our intention and our thinking that drives us. I read an interview quite some time ago with Richard Gere, who is a practicing Buddhist, serious practicing Buddhist, and he said he started doing this practice many years ago. No matter what he was doing or where he was, whoever he met on the way, be it person, animal, plant, or insect, he would silently say, "I wish you happiness. I wish you happiness." He said it was important to him that this was the first thing he thought, so that it completely changed what was going on in his interactions. Very simple thing. I wish you happiness. And how does it get to be the first thing we thought? Practice. We practice when we find it being the fourth or fifth thing we think, and then the third thing we think, and then the second thing, and eventually it is the first thing we wish to every blade of grass and every butterfly and every mosquito and every slug and every person and animal we interact with. What would happen to us if we set an intention like that? To simply wish blessing on every life form we met. Might it not awaken us to consciousness of the life around us? I don't know about you, but unless it's bright pink or some color that catches my eye, I just sort of stroll through life, Oh yeah. And every once in a while, a tree that is brilliant in its color will catch my eye. Otherwise, I tend to kind of go on autopilot. So an intention to bring the blessing of happiness to everything I interact with makes me conscious of the life around me. And it helps me not hook into the world's yelling. It helps me come back to my heart and remember that this is what's important. This is what's important. What might happen if before we made any decision we stopped to ask, how does this affect the life around me? Does it bless the life around me or not? How do I make a choice that respects and honors my kin of the air and the ground and the water and all of them, all of my kin? How can I choose from a place of spiritual knowing rather than from a place of lack or fear or thoughtlessness? Because most often it's just thoughtlessness. I don't think about any life but mine, right? This is where this spiritual idea that seems simple gets really difficult, is overcoming overload and thoughtlessness and too many other things to think about. Our choices matter. Our choices matter. From what we eat, to what we wear, to the car we drive, to the choices we make every day that affect the whole web of life. Not just us, the whole web. The stuff we spray on our lawns, and how we heat and cool our homes and our church. How we do anything ripples outward. Because this is not merely, I'm surrounded by life, I'm interwoven with life. We all are. We're all interwoven with it. So how do we make choices that are good for us and good for everything else, for the rest of our life? First of all, we stop listening to that voice that says, hey, this is important, worry about this, watch out for that. We stop listening to that voice and we keep returning to the heart, to the understanding, the deep understanding of the heart that is always telling us about our kin, about these other threads of our own lives that are everywhere. And third, we remember who we are. We remember who we are, manifestations of the one life that goes by all those names. I call it God because it's the easiest word I know, but you could call it universe or intelligence or consciousness or whatever you wanted to call it, because it doesn't care what you call it. It only cares that you call it, right? We are manifestations of it, evolved to the point of being conscious of that truth about ourselves. Evolved to the point where we act intentionally instead of merely instinctually. I was at the airport the other day, and all I wanted was a bloody drink of water. And I usually don't buy bottled water because of the effect of the bottles and the fact that it costs 1,000 times as much as regular water. And there was no drinking fountain to be had. None. So I did register my comment. It wasn't a complaint, it was a comment. I would appreciate it if there were a drinking fountain as an alternative to bottled water. So I had to stop and read a couple of labels and try and figure out what decision would be the best one. And the best one I could make in those circumstances was to buy something that was bottled locally in Denver, because at least that way I didn't incur the shipping costs to ship it to me from Schenectady or wherever else it might have been bottled. It took just an extra minute, but for me, that's an important decision. And the same with food. I know what food I need to buy organic, and if you want to know, Google the Dirty Dozen, and it will tell you the 12 things you should always buy organic if you want to avoid pesticides in your body. But it's also important to think about where things are grown. You know, why should I have an apple flown here from Chile when I could have a pear that comes from a couple states away? Making those kinds of choices to avoid the huge pollution and waste that goes on in our world, simply to make life easy for us. And I know some of you will hate this, but the single most impactful thing you can do for all of your kin is to stop or cut down on eating meat. The meat industry creates 50% of the greenhouse gases that are affecting our climate. It also uses 1/3 of the fresh water on our planet. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I know it's a big decision for me. It's been easy and healthy, but it isn't. You don't have to make that giant decision. Just try going a day or two a week with no meat and see what happens. I promise you won't die. I promise. Even you can skip bacon for 2 days in a row and you'll be okay. Try a day or two a week with no processed food, because processed food requires energy, and so every little bit of processed food saves energy and money, because all those steps of processing cost money, right? The more processed, the more expensive, and the more damage to the environment, and frankly, the worse for your body. Right? The farther it gets from food, and the worse it is for your body. The really important thing to add into that mix is the more processed it is, the more likely it contains palm oil. Palm oil exists in everything, right? And it is responsible for huge swaths of rainforest being converted to palm oil plantations, and the near extinction, because of the loss of those forests, of our closest relative, the orangutan, the Sumatran tiger, the Sumatran rhinoceros, the sun bear, the pygmy elephant, the clouded leopard, the proboscis monkey, and 3,000 other species. So when you start thinking from the heart about the rest of life, you just let that guide your decision. What's going to be best for all life? Right? The decision's not hard. The closer I eat to real food that's produced as close as I can get it, and without pesticides, the better off for everybody, not just me. You start thinking that way, and you start making choices that are the best for everything on the planet. And then comes another hard question. Why bother? It's just me. It's just little old me. Why isn't what I do, it doesn't even matter really, does it? Well, the simple answer is, yes, it does. Yes, it does. The water bottle story is close to my heart because I love the critters that live in the sea. We Americans dumped 38 billion water bottles into the environment last year. And the average American, each one of us used 167 of those bottles, and we only recycled 30. That means 137 of them went into the trash. They don't break down, but they do blow around. And a lot of them wind up in this part of the Pacific Ocean we think of as the garbage patch, but it's actually a whole section. It stretches from Japan to California, and from the southern tip of Mexico to the Oregon-Washington border. And it's full of plastic trash, which gets eaten by marine animals. The birds will eat the little caps, and larger animals will eat the whole bottle. It's estimated that 1 million birds on 100,000 marine mammals die every year from eating plastic. So I don't know about you, but if my not buying those 167 bottles of water means one more creature stays alive, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. If not buying processed food that contains palm oil means one orangutan gets to live, I'm good with that. That's an impact, right? That's an impact. And when we do it together, it's huge. It's a huge impact. It's been shown that 73% of the rainforest land that's been mowed under is used for pasture to raise cattle. The Amazon rainforest disappears at 5 million acres a year. Former Amazon rainforest, converted for food since 1970, constitutes 90% of the deforestation since that year. And the same thing is true everywhere, but it's concentrated in the Amazon. But you know what? Because we're becoming more conscious as a country, Americans cut their beef production and consumption in recent years by 6%. That's 300,000 acres of Amazon rainforest that is in existence because of that. 20 million tons of carbon dioxide. I say high five to that. We've saved that much stuff, rainforest and pollution. This is the only way things ever change, right? Ramana Maharshi, the Hindu sage, said, self-reform automatically brings about social reform. It all starts right here. It starts with saying, I'm not going to listen to what the world tells me. I'm going to listen to my heart. This is what matters. My heart for life, my heart for God, my heart for the world. When we live from our hearts and realize that interconnectedness of life, what happens? We start to live toward a world where every life gets to prosper, where the choices we make are better for all of life, where we start affirming the life around us instead of ignoring it. We start saying, I wish you happiness to every bird and every blade of grass and every cat and dog and every cow and every person we meet. That's a big shift right there. That's what starts to bring about the world that works for everyone. The most important answer, I think, to why bother is this. We are here to be the presence of the divine. We are here to be the heart of the divine and the voice of the divine and the hands and feet of the divine. So we're here to think with the mind of God. And if this God is what it seems to be, the God of life, the God of love, the God of joy, the God of compassion, the God of abundance, then we as its conscious manifestation are here to be people of love and life and joy and compassion and abundance. That means we bring all those qualities, life and love and joy and compassion and abundance, to all that we do, to all of our choices, to everything that we are, to every interaction we have with the rest of the life of the planet. That's what we're here for, right? Once we become conscious, once we set an intention, once we remember that this is what counts, not the shouting of the world. As Ernest Holmes said in our reading today, you are united with all. You are one with the eternal light itself. The presence of Spirit within you, as you, blesses everyone you meet, intends to heal everyone you touch, everything you touch. It brings gladness into the life of everyone you contact. Therefore, you are a blessing to yourself, to humankind, and to the day in which you live. So let us consciously be that. Let us consciously bless every interaction, every life form we meet with happiness and joy and freedom and abundance. To all our kin, Let us consciously bless the day in which we live, every single day. Join me, will you, with just allowing your consciousness now to fall into your heart, to fall into that place that is the very life of God within each one of us. That place that eternally shines, that can be hidden but never destroyed, for it is who and what we truly are. And it is from that place that I remember that there is only one life. There is only one mind. There is only one vast, eternal, infinite love that we call God. And it lives and moves and makes its way into the world by means of its creation, through its creation. So that right where I am, right where every one of us is, that life is, that love is, that infinite creativity and wisdom is, all of it, closer than our beating hearts, closer than the breath in our lungs. And from this place, I know, for all of us, that we allow ourselves to flower into people of blessing, people of joy, people of happiness, people of abundance, people of healing, people of grace and wisdom. And that every interaction we have with all life is imbued with that wisdom and love, with that creativity and joy, with that abundance and happiness. So that wherever we walk, we bless our world. So that whatever we do, we heal our world. So that whatever choices we make, raise our world up. And knowing this is the truth of who we are, I say thank you. I rest in such deep gratitude for everyone who is here and for this community, for all that happens here, for everyone who participates. I rest in such deep gratitude for life itself, this vehicle of consciousness, of love, creating newly, moment by moment, everything that exists, and sustaining all of that creation. I rest in deep gratitude, and from this gratitude, I release it. I let it go. I realize that God is doing for all of us everything that needs to be done. I realize that God always says yes to us, that the universe is always, always rushing to us as we tiptoe towards it. So I just let it be. I release it. I let it go. And we say together, and so it is.
I'm just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious web of life. We are all just drops within a stream flowing towards that ocean of light. We may forget where we come from. As much as I'm a reflection of you.
Amen. So we now have an opportunity for giving money, and I want to talk to you a minute about that. Why do we give? Because it's in our spiritual DNA to give. Sometimes our human DNA likes to hang on to money and buy stuff to protect us from the perceived vagaries of existence. But stop and consider for a minute, as I have been learning, that the stuff with which I surround myself stands between me and the feeling of oneness I'm after. It stands between me and acknowledgement of God, and it stands between me and you, between me and other people. It's no coincidence that every single spiritual tradition begins with the practice of generosity, because we can build reflective armor around ourselves, reflective and deflective armor that takes us away from our kinship with God and with all life. There's a great cartoon I saw. They were baptizing somebody, and the minister said to the guy who was about to be dunked in the water, "Everything that goes under belongs to God." So the next panel used the guy under the water with his hand up above the water holding his wallet. We do that, don't we? We do that. Not this. This part I'm not giving to God. This part I'm keeping for myself. So I just invite you as an ongoing practice to consider your own spiritual practice of generosity, and see whether any part of your behavior around money or your fears around money is blocking you from other people or from your sense of wholeness and oneness with God. And right now I invite you to take a moment to just count your blessings. They are so numerous in our lives. And to set an intention to clear away everything that stands between your heart and the one heart of God. And please know with me right now, my heart is open. I give from an open heart.
I give from an open heart.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
And I am grateful.
And I am grateful.
And so it is.
So it is.